Alright, hello everybody, and welcome back to my gradient mesh tutorial. We are drawing this face realistically using the gradient mesh tool like I just said. On the last episode we were starting talking about drawing the eyes, and we are going to continue going forward to the eyes. So I'm going to make a new layer for my eyes, but the thing is, let me look at the layer that I actually need to draw. So this is my so let me put that back. So basically where you see this edge, this hard edge, so basically where you see this hard edge is going to be where my eye layer is going to have to blend and cover, because that really doesn't look good, and I really don't plan on fixing that. That's really just for there to blend the layer that I was just talking about, this outer layer. And then you can even see here we have this inner layer right here, and that might even be another layer separate from the actual eyeball itself inside the eye socket right here. So this is not, so you can see that's like inside the bounds of that. So that we pretty much will have 3 layers for this eyeball, if I'm not mistaken. I might do 2, might do this one as one, we'll see. But there's definitely going to be a lot of detail in here because the eyes are super important, so we can't really miss out on too much important detail that is in these eyes, because again, you can have a beautiful face, but if your eyes look kind of off, it kind of stands out very, very easily, because humans tend to look at the eyes and they almost have the strongest resemblance of realism, and basically what will make your human look more human. So that being said, we're going to actually, before we start, I just want to point out that I think I've already said this earlier in the video, but this glitter and this rough makeup texture we're really not going to try. Like all this kind of in and out texture we don't want. We want to draw smooth. This is the result of macro or close-up photography. Typically a photographer, I mean, this looks good, but typically when you edit maybe, let's say, a female portrait, typically it's a little bit more smooth, but in this case the artist and the makeup artist went for this look, which is fine. But I'm typically not going to draw that type of texture. I would draw maybe freckle texture, and also this glitter I'm probably going to draw, because that's really going to give that look, because you know it needs to match. She has all the pink and purple highlights, and then the glitter and the lipstick kind of bring it together in her look, so I don't want to take that away from what we're already kind of trying to establish with the face layer. So again, that being said, I think I'm going to start off with the outer layer. I'm just going to go out in, so I'm just going to name this eyes layer 3, and I'm going to work down from layer 3 to 1. So like usual, we have to start with a solid shape. So I don't know what was happening again with my other shapes with my rounded rectangle and my lips, but I'm just going to stick to rectangle because I can always just smooth out the edges. So that's kind of something I picked up on this tutorial. So like I said, you have to be doing this to be learning. I'm not perfect at it, but I can certainly tell you how I get from point A to point B, and then you can take it from there once you start to get the hang. And then maybe you'll even be better than me, who knows? You know, everyone has their thing, and this might be your thing. So we're gonna place the center point right there because we're starting a new shape, and I'm just gonna do that because that's really the direction of the eye. It's kind of going left to right from the center, so this is kind of like what we were doing with the face. All the mesh points want to follow that line. And if you're just watching this video, this is my current mesh, and then we left openings for the eyes and other parts. But again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to control click this eyeball, because then I want to reveal the outline only on that layer, because I do not want to have outline on everything. I just want to have outline on this layer. So control click that eyeball, and then I'm going to center it. All right, so now what we have to do is we have to take our points and box in like previous episodes we discussed again. So let me look at my layer actually where I have what I need to cover. And I'm going to kind of go by this. because this is what I really need to draw. In a sense, I need to box this ugliness in. And the reason really we're doing this is because if we look at our face layer, the way we got this detail was from an enormous amount of points, and I don't want all of that detail in my eyes. I want that to be separate, one, and two, I want that to be separate because I want it to be smoother, and we need to basically, I don't want to mess with this particular mesh in here and just make that the eyes. You could technically, but really then you have to do a lot of point matching over here. You're gonna have tons and tons more points over here, tons and tons more points everywhere, and you can see we already have a lot. So I really want to just separate that, and that's my workflow. Some people might differ, but I like to separate some layers because I don't like to work in one gigantic mesh, whether I could save it and copy and paste it and keep working and go back. I just prefer layers and organization and then blending, and then that's really how I do it. Okay, so I'm just gonna give it a quick save for no reason, but I am going to start shaping the way I want my color. So I don't want it too many points, and I just really want to go for that basic trend of lineage. And I want to make sure I'm following the path, and I can't really see these points, so I'm going to change this. Put this at. So I'm just going to make this a color that I can see. Alright, there we go. Right now what I'm doing is, like I've done in other videos, I'm realizing that I can see this almost trend of this line between this lighter tan or this mid tan to this purple, pink, orange even. It goes about like this. You can see almost that trend right now. So what I'm going to do is try and follow that trend, and I got to make sure all my points fall back to the center. Or just follow the trend, and the trend goes about to the center point. So I'm going to make my points kind of wrap that same foundation. This one's got to go into the right. This one can't be here because the color kind of goes to the center and then up. But this line I actually, yeah, this line I want to go up. Right about there. What is going on? Gonna make me do it beforehand here. Alright. So that's looking alright. It doesn't really need to be too perfect. Again, we want it to be pretty smooth, and this is really just a patch, a smooth patch, mesh patch to our sloppy, basically leftovers of the face layer. And I'm gonna add a decent amount of points. Not too many. I just want to get some general color change. So it goes pretty much like mid tan, dark tan to dark purple, and then we get into the black corner of her eye, and that's going to be covered as well. But I'm going to put probably like 1 or 2 points inside the middle just to make sure I have points in there. And by middle I mean the part that will be covered with her eye right here, this part, basically this surrounding patch. So now this needs to go down here because now it's not following the path it needs to. We want everything to be pretty organized and straight, but we also want it to follow its color path. So that's looking pretty good. Put 1 point here. Maybe move it a little bit to the right. So I think this just needs to go in a little bit more. This needs to come this way a little bit. So this one can go more. So that's looking pretty good. At least I'd say. I'm going to put 1 point over here just to structure a little bit better. I'm going to put it right in the crevice right there to identify that as the right point of the eye, and I kind of have the left point over here. Okay, so I'm just going to fix this. Actually, that's looking pretty good. I don't really need to fix that line. I do need a line down here. I can't really go like that. It's got to go more like that. Let's move this guy up. Let's move this guy up too. Let's move this guy to the right. I don't like the way this is curving a little too hard. I'm just fix that up. I'm actually gonna move this up and this a little bit more. Alright, so just quickly we're going to look at what we have, and then we're going to turn the image back on. And it's looking pretty good so far. It looks kind of on par with the shape, but we're going to keep going. We need to think a few more points, maybe one more towards the edge. I do want to get this highlight, but I don't want to be too crazy about it. I just want to get a few tones of it, or else it's going to start to look kind of unsmooth. Kind of just want the trend and maybe 1 point in the middle like that. Kind of center these points. I don't really want to create too much of a hard edge, but I do want to box that color in and create the highlight that we see here. So it kind of goes like that. That looks pretty good. I think I'm going to move these points over so I can get more of that circular look. It's becoming too boxy over there. I want to keep that movement across the eye. I might need to add more points later to blend with the inner part, but we'll figure that out as we go. We don't want to go too much at once. We want to keep going, kind of play it by ear. We don't want to be too aggressive, but we want to be smart about our placement. Because if we don't duplicate our file, or we don't duplicate our layers of some way and act non-destructively and work non-destructively, you're going to get ahead of yourself, and you're going to put yourself in a hole that you really can't get out of. I think for this shape right here, this shadow on her eye, I think I might make that a separate mesh layer as well, just for the sake of cleanliness, and I'll show you how I do that, because I could make it on this mesh again. You know what, I'm actually gonna make it on this mesh. I lied. Let's make it on this mesh. Let's make it. All right, so the way I'm gonna do this is I'm actually not gonna move any points I have right now. I'm simply going to create new points from here and box this shape in. And this is very similar to the way I drew my keyboard. If you watched the first episode, I showed it for like 2 seconds. But it was a realistic drawing of a keyboard, and the way I did that was I did very harsh box lines, so I'll show you. So we need to make sure we have at least one line going across the very center point of that line. So if you were going to pen tool that line from the center, we would need to create that right now. So we actually have to move that in order for it to work. So we're going to have to do a little bit of restructure, but this is the path I have chosen. So I'm actually going to not do that. I'm going to move this guy a little bit to the right. And I do need to add a point there. And now that I'm creating this shape, I might as well draw in this layer this part too, right above her eyelashes, but behind the eyelashes, realistically, this kind of point right here, this half moon, crescent moon shape, that's what we're gonna want to draw as well in this layer, because we're basically setting ourselves up for it, and we're gonna be shaping it anyway because we have to shape it with the indent in her eye right here. All right, so if I were to color this like the way it is with the line going across, yes, you may get the black color there, but the black color is going to extend so far out to every direction and to every point, even to the top here, because I have no points in between. Well, first step, let me add a point there, because we definitely don't want that to be empty. We need a color up there, and we need those tones in the middle before the end point, or else we're going to be blending this black point, because the next point next to it was up here, and that would cause a problem. So we're going to add this middle point. And we are going to go back to the indent, and what we're going to need to do is create a sharp line. So we have basically drawn a line, an imaginary line almost, to the center of this black line, of this black indent. So how do we make sure the color stays very sharp and thin like it is presented in the image? We have to basically box it in very sharp, so we have to create a sharp edge like that. So now when I fill this in and I fill this in, you're going to see a very quick tone difference, but it's still going to be smooth like it has a feather. But that's the beauty of the mesh. It's never going to be that harsh vector shape change. It's going to be, everything is blended. Everything is like you have a, it's a gradient. Everywhere is a gradient. That's the beauty of it. You can have gradient so finely tuned. So I want to keep that shape. I want this to be my right point, that to be my middle point. And I have to fix this. I have to keep these points tight to each other like that. But then it kind of gets lost over here. So let me see what's going on. That's my middle line. That's my right line. So I need another point here. So something, that's my right line. All right, let me make the left line right here. That's my left line. It's getting a little hectic right here, so we have to do some fixes right now. So we have to create the left line right now. So let me fix back where we just were. All right, so that's a good left line so far. So you can see what we're trying to do. And when we color the points down here, we're gonna make all of these points the same color, because we don't really need to color that cluster separately. It's just too close. It's not gonna look real. It's gonna look like you digitally painted something. We want it to look real. Okay, so this is where we have our problem. Kind of right when we get to this cross point. So what needs to happen? Let's look. This line is already failing. Two of these lines are, let me open this up because I can't really see what's happening, so I could fix this. I'm going to separate these a little bit so I could just see. Alright, so if I bring this guy tight in, got to move this back. Alright, so let me use my caret. I have to use it right now. I need to create a point here, definitely. All right, so this is actually a little confusing, so I got to stare at this for a little bit. So what I had to do is I had to create a point on the rightmost cluster on this top line here. So let me redo here. I had to undo what I did so I can show you. if I redo, I added a point on this outer top line. So what this is going to allow me to do is these two top points are now outside the crevice, the indent. So these can go basically up here, so I could show you what I'm talking about. And now these lines are going to be consistently, actually this one's got to come down. But these lines are going to be consistently the boundary of the top path or the left path. And I'm not sure how or why it worked out like this, but I guess just based on the way I made the mesh prior to doing this, there was going to be a little bit of a roadblock right here, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to really cause any difference. I'm just going to make sure it's straight and organized. Kind of interesting how they all connect like this at this point. Very odd. Not usually do you run into situations where you have to do this. Could have been a mistake, but you can always fix it. All right, so let's continue making sure our left path is solid. So I'm running into some cluster issues here. So let me just bring this, come on, let me just bring this up. This has got to go down, this has got to go middle, this has got to go top. They call it the 3-line trick. They use it a lot in 3D modeling to create these type of edges in 3D. Kind of makes sense if you think about it. But you'll see what exactly it's going to do. Not that I haven't done this before throughout the face illustration, but this is a very good example. This is a very good example of this technique. And you could really, it's given a good example of when we're running into problems, because we're running into really a couple of problems with the mesh, and we're gonna have to almost do the same type of situation that we just fixed before or ran into before right here. So because we're kind of having that issue. So I need to add a line definitely right here. What's that? What is that going to do for me? That's going to create, this is a middle and then this is a top. No, these are all middle. This is a top. I need to add another point here. There we go. All right, so now I can box it in. Again, we had to do that kind of parachute net technique. I don't know why I had to add so many more points there for it to work. But now we can create our straight line. We created the bridge across each linear path. So there we go. Kind of the same thing I did before, just in a different fashion. So good thing that is it seems like that's the way I have to do it. And then we could basically leave that as is. All right, so what that's gonna allow us to do when we color this layer is this color will blend with the middle black, and this color will also blend out here. So we'll get a natural skin blend up until the crevice, and then we'll get that sharp crevice, and then it'll come out of the crevice to the right. And it'll work out really well, and I'll show you how exactly it's gonna happen. But let me fix, before we color this layer and see where we're at so far, before we have to do any type of corrections, let me just fix this part up here, because I wanna make sure I can color this part of the eye on this layer now based on the amount of lines I have. It'd probably work out well. So I think this line is a little bit almost useless to an extent. I'm gonna kind of bring it in tight. I'll see how I have to color it, but it's kind of connecting to the edge that isn't really an edge. It's kind of because I had to do all these corrections. So I'm going to just kind of have it go up there and just help out that situation. So I can then bring this in, because this is towards the middle and I can't really move this. This is the end. This is towards the middle of this. So if we were to basically drive straight through this sector of mesh, we have a starting point in the middle, basically from the top and bottom and top of this shape. We have it coming into the middle. We want to keep that path on the middle. We want to go across the middle, and that would be our center line. So the reason I moved this line up was because this one had to come up as our center path, like this. So now we can follow that center path with this line, and this line can actually come out like that. And that is looking pretty good. I'm gonna add one more point right in there. Definitely gonna fix this. I gotta capture the color between the middle and all the way to the right, or else I'm gonna have a dark orange basically blending with this light without capturing any of this light orange or light pink right here, and that's gonna kind of look too harsh, or not really what I want to capture out of it. So definitely gonna make sure there's points in between the middle points, and to make sure this is lining up straight, I'm actually gonna move this whole section there. And the way I'm grabbing all these points is hitting A on the keyboard and using the direct selection key tool. It's also gonna be up here. You're gonna use that bad boy a lot. All right, so I just need, I think, one more point right in the middle over here. I'm gonna straighten this guy out. All right, so with that, we have a good center point now, and we do have a top point. We have that whole top part covered. So the center point is done. We have that whole top part covered. The only thing missing is the bottom dividing line. So we have to create a line basically starting here, because that is where, if you follow this path, it kind of intersects, and all these points that just came about are now going to be my edge point right here. And this edge point doesn't really have to be, I don't have to do like anything I did up here with the black and the orange or the white, because if I just have this tone right here, if I just tone it to, let's say, one of these orange tones and it blends outward to here, this is going to be covered with a sharp black over here anyway. So I'm not too worried about the blending of this part of the eye into the center. So I'm just going to make sure I capture this edge point tone and just give it that divide that it needs, because that divide again is also going to be created with our other eye layers. Alright, so if I said otherwise before this, I think the only thing now I want to do with the eye before I move forward with coloring, I think I've said this before and I'm probably lying right to you now, but I'm going to just fix the bottom edge, the bottom dividing line of the eye, and that is right when I'm done. I'll show you the bottom dividing line of the eye, and that would be this. I just want to basically structure that kind of inner line. I might do the eye in 2 layers now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, probably. And then maybe the eye, the eyelashes will be a separate thing, but all right, so this has got to go down over here. And that is going to be the start of our corner. Okay, so now what we could do is we have to add one more point across this boundary. So then what we can do now after that is pull these guys up, because all these points are new. Make sure everything is lining up and kosher. Make sure we don't have any weird intersections, even though those are going to be toned the same. I do want it to be a little bit separated. This is actually can come down a little bit. I want to keep that line straight. And then we can just fix all these points across this boundary. Right now I'm just tweaking up the mesh to just match the color a little bit better with all these extra points over here that could be useful. I do want to make sure the eye looks like the eye. Don't want to just be a little, although we want to be smooth, I do want to be detailed to an extent so we kind of capture that general trend of color. And you can even see how I follow the line over here. You can see how like the line of color kind of goes up like that. And now that I'm even seeing that, I even might want to add a point right here to capture that other tonal change in here. Alright, so now that I did a little bit of tweaking and fast forwarding through that, about a few minutes of editing, I think I'm ready to start to applying color to this mesh and seeing where I need to make fixes and just seeing where I'm at right now. It looks pretty good, but there's always going to be we're always going to need some correction, and we're also going to need to blend these edges to our face layer. So I'm just going to give it a quick save, and I think I'm going to do that coloring on the beginning of the next episode. So thank you so much for watching this far. We're on episode 15 now, going on 16. I don't really know how many at this point, because now I'm just filming. Now I'm just talking and filming as we go. So I don't know. I'm seeing upwards of 30 plus episodes of this, because we're gonna have to do the hair, the ears, the lips, the other eye, eyebrows. And we're going to go over all that, and we're going to, do it together. So again, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell me what you think, if you hate it, if you love it, what you think of my drawing, and any opinions really. And my Instagram is marked arts. That's MARKD_ARTS. You can also follow me on, Facebook, whatever. But Instagram is my main jam other than YouTube. And I'll catch you on the next one.